the rise of Prussia stands as a pivotal moment in modern history, forging the destiny of Europe and beyond. Born from the ashes of the Teutonic Knights, this fledgling state would become a powerhouse that reshaped the continent. As we embark on this journey, the question echoes: what secrets lie within the ascent of a nation that would change the course of civilization forever? In the early 13th century, the Baltic region was a vast and mysterious expanse, shrouded in mist and legend. The shores of the Vistula River, which would eventually become the lifeblood of Prussia, were home to a patchwork of pagan tribes, each with their own distinct culture and traditions. The Prussians, a group of Baltic tribespeople, inhabited the area, living in small settlements and eking out a living from the fertile soil and abundant forests. To the south, the Polish kingdom, under the rule of Conrad I of Masovia, was expanding its territories, seeking to consolidate its power and spread Christianity to the pagan lands. The Teutonic Knights, a German military order founded in the 12th century, had been invited by Conrad to help him subdue the Prussians and convert them to Christianity. In 1226, the Knights arrived in the region armed with the Pope's blessing and a mandate to bring civilization to the heathen. The Teutonic Knights were a formidable force, with their white mantles emblazoned with the Black Cross, a symbol of their unwavering dedication to their mission. They established their headquarters in Toru, a strategic location on the Vistula River, and began to build a network of castles and fortifications to secure their hold on the region. The Knights' leader, Hermann von Balke, was a shrewd politician and military strategist who recognized a potential for growth and expansion in the Baltic region. As the Teutonic Knights began to assert their control over the Prussians, they faced fierce resistance from the native population. The Prussians were skilled warriors, adept at guerrilla tactics, and familiar with the treacherous terrain of the Baltic forests. They launched a series of raids against the Knights' strongholds, seeking to drive the invaders out of their lands. The conflict was brutal and relentless, with both sides committing atrocities and suffering heavy losses. Despite the challenges they faced, the Teutonic Knights persevered, using their military prowess and diplomatic skills to gradually consolidate their hold on the region. They established a system of governance, with the Grand Master of the Order serving as the supreme authority, and began to promote trade and commerce in the area. The city of Königsberg, founded by the Knights in 1255, would eventually become the capital of Prussia, a thriving commercial center that attracted merchants and traders from across Europe. The relationship between the Teutonic Knights and the Polish kingdom was complex and often fraught with tension. While the Knights had been invited to the region by Conrad I, they soon began to assert their independence, seeking to establish themselves as a sovereign power in the Baltic. The Poles, who had initially seen the Knights as useful allies, grew increasingly wary of their ambitions, recognizing that the Order's expansionist policies threatened their own interests in the region. As the Teutonic Knights continued to expand their territories, they faced increasing opposition from the Polish kingdom, which saw the Order's growing power as a threat to its own sovereignty. In 1230, Conrad I of Masovia, who had initially invited the Knights to the region, began to regret his decision and sought to limit their influence. He attempted to restrict the Knights' autonomy, but they resisted, citing their papal mandate and the privileges granted to them by the Holy Roman Emperor. The tensions between the Teutonic Knights and the Polish kingdom came to a head in 1242, when the Knights launched a military campaign against the Polish city of Gdańsk, which was a key trading center on the Baltic coast. The Knights' leader, Heinrich von Wiede, led the assault, but the Poles, aided by their allies from the Kingdom of Hungary, repelled the attack. The defeat marked a significant setback for the Teutonic Knights, and they were forced to regroup and reassess their strategy. In the aftermath of the battle, the Teutonic Knights turned their attention to consolidating their hold on the Prussian territories. They established a network of castles and fortifications, including the fortress of Marienburg, which would become the Order's headquarters. The Knights also began to promote German colonization in the region, encouraging settlers from the Holy Roman Empire to establish themselves in Prussia. This led to the creation of a new class of landowners, who would play a significant role in shaping the future of the region. One of the key figures in this period was Winrich von Nieprode, a Teutonic Knight who served as the Grand Master of the Order from 1351 to 1382. Von Nieprode was a skilled diplomat and military leader. who worked tirelessly to promote the interests of the Teutonic Knights and expand their territories. He negotiated trade agreements with the Hanseatic League, a powerful mercantile organization that dominated trade in the Baltic region, and established alliances with other European powers. Under von Knieprod's leadership, the Teutonic Knights launched a series of military campaigns against the pagan tribes of Lithuania and Prussia, seeking to convert them to Christianity and bring them under the order's control. The most notable of these campaigns was the Raison, or Crusades, which took place in the 1360s and 1370s. These military expeditions were marked by brutality and violence, with the knights using scorched earth tactics and massacring civilian populations. The Raison had a profound impact on the region, leading to the displacement of thousands of people and the destruction of entire communities. Many of the pagan tribes were forced to flee or convert to Christianity, while others were assimilated into the German-speaking population. The Teutonic Knights, meanwhile, emerged as the dominant power in the region, with their control extending from the Baltic coast to the borders of Lithuania. As the Teutonic Knights continued to expand their territories, they faced new challenges and opportunities. The Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 1340s, had a devastating impact on the population of Prussia, leading to widespread poverty and social unrest. The Knights responded by promoting trade and commerce and by establishing new towns and cities. They also began to develop a more sophisticated system of governance, with a network of administrators and officials responsible for collecting taxes and maintaining law and order. As the Teutonic Knights continued to develop their system of governance, they established a network of administrative districts known as Kommenden, which were responsible for collecting taxes, maintaining law and order, and overseeing the local economy. These districts were typically centered around a key town or city, such as Marienburg, Elbing, or Thorn, and were governed by a Komtur, who was appointed by the Grand Master of the Order. One of the most significant Kommenden was the district of Samland, which was established in the 1370s and covered a vast territory, stretching from the Baltic coast to the borders of Lithuania. The Komtur of Samland was responsible for overseeing the local economy, which was based largely on trade and agriculture, and for maintaining the order's military presence in the region. The district was also home to several key towns, including Königsberg, which would later become a major city in the Duchy of Prussia. In the late 14th century, the Teutonic Knights faced a new challenge in the form of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which had emerged as a powerful force in the region. The Lithuanians, led by their Grand Duke, Vytautas, began to expand their territories, encroaching on the lands controlled by the Teutonic Knights. In response, the order launched a series of military campaigns against the Lithuanians, including the Battle of Grunwald in 1410, which was one of the largest and most bloody battles of the Middle Ages. The Battle of Grunwald was a devastating defeat for the Teutonic Knights, who lost thousands of men, including many high-ranking officials. The order's Grand Master, Ulrich von Jungingen, was killed in the battle, along with several other prominent leaders. The defeat marked a significant turning point in the history of the Teutonic Knights, as it weakened their military power and led to a decline in their influence in the region. In the aftermath of the Battle of Grunwald, the Teutonic Knights were forced to regroup and reassess their strategy. They began to focus more on defensive warfare, building fortified castles and towns to protect their territories from Lithuanian attacks. They also sought to strengthen their alliances with other European powers, including the Kingdom of Poland and the Holy Roman Empire. One of the key figures in this period was Michael Kuschmeister von Sternberg, who served as the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights from 1414 to 1422. Von Sternberg was a skilled diplomat and military leader who worked tirelessly to promote the interests of the order and restore its influence in the region. He negotiated several key treaties, including the Treaty of Melno in 1422, which established a temporary peace between the Teutonic Knights and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Despite these efforts, the Teutonic Knights continued to face significant challenges in the 15th century, including internal conflicts and external threats. The order's territories were repeatedly attacked by the Lithuanians, who sought to expand their own territories and weaken the power of the Teutonic Knights. The order's leaders were also faced with internal power struggles, as different factions vied for control of the organization. In this tumultuous period, the Teutonic Knights began to develop a more complex system of governance with a greater emphasis on representative government and accountability. The Order's chapters, which were responsible for electing the Grand Master and other high-ranking officials, became more powerful and influential, and the comtours of the various commandant began to play a more significant role in shaping the Order's policies. The Order's leaders were faced with the daunting task of navigating the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the region. In 1454, the Knights signed the Treaty of Niezawa, which established a temporary peace with the Kingdom of Poland, but this fragile truce was soon shattered by the outbreak of the 13 Years' War. The war, which lasted from 1454 to 1466, pitted the Teutonic Knights against the Kingdom of Poland and its allies, including the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. The conflict was marked by numerous battles and sieges, including the Battle of Chojnice in 1454, in which the Knights suffered a significant defeat. Despite this setback, the Order's leaders continued to resist Polish encroachment, and in 1455 they launched a successful counterattack against the city of Torusha. The war finally came to an end with the signing of the Second Treaty of Thorn in 1466, which established a lasting peace between the Teutonic Knights and the Kingdom of Poland. The treaty marked a significant turning point in the history of the Order, as it led to the secularization of the Knights' territories and the establishment of the Duchy of Prussia as a Polish fiefdom. In the aftermath of the war, the Teutonic Knights underwent a period of significant reform led by the Grand Master Heinrich Reusch von Plauen. Reusch von Plauen implemented a series of measures aimed at strengthening the Order's military and administrative capabilities, including the creation of a new system of governance and the establishment of a permanent army. One of the key figures to emerge during this period was Johannes von Tiefen, who served as the Grand Master of the Teutonic Knights from 1489 to 1497. Von Tiefen was a skilled diplomat and military leader, who played a crucial role in navigating the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the region. The Order's leaders were faced with the daunting task of navigating the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the region, while also addressing the growing threat posed by the Ottoman Empire. In 1497, the Knights launched a disastrous campaign against the Ottomans, which ended in defeat and led to the signing of the Treaty of Radom in 1500. The treaty marked a significant turning point in the history of the Teutonic Knights, as it led to the establishment of a permanent peace between the Order and the Ottoman Empire. However, it also marked the beginning of a period of decline for the Knights, as they faced growing pressure from their neighbors and struggled to maintain their influence in the region. In 1511, the Teutonic Knights elected a new Grand Master, Albert of Hohenzollern, who would play a crucial role in shaping the future of the Order. Albert was a member of the powerful Hohenzollern dynasty, which had long been involved in the politics of the region. He was a skilled diplomat and military leader who recognized the need for the Teutonic Knights to adapt to the changing circumstances of the region. Albert of Hohenzollern's election as Grand Master marked a significant turning point in the history of the Teutonic Knights. Recognizing the need for reform, Albert embarked on a series of measures aimed at strengthening the Order's military and administrative capabilities. He introduced new tactics and training methods, modeled after those employed by the Hungarian army, which had successfully resisted Ottoman advances. Additionally, Albert established a more efficient system of governance, decentralizing power and granting greater autonomy to local commanders. One of Albert's most significant decisions was to seek an alliance with the Polish king, Sigismund I. In 1517, Albert traveled to Krakow, where he negotiated a treaty of mutual defense with the Polish monarch. This alliance marked a significant shift in the Teutonic Knights' foreign policy, as they began to orient themselves more closely with the Polish kingdom. The treaty also paved the way for Albert's eventual secularization of the Order's territories, which would have far-reaching consequences for the region. As Grand Master, Albert also invested heavily in the development of the Order's infrastructure. He oversaw the construction of new fortifications, roads, and bridges, which helped to facilitate trade and commerce within the region. The city of Königsberg, which had long been a key stronghold of the Teutonic Knights, underwent significant renovations during Albert's tenure, including the construction of a new castle and the expansion of the city's walls. Despite these efforts, the Teutonic Knights continued to face challenges from their neighbors. In 1520, the order became embroiled in a conflict with the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which had long been a rival power in the region. The conflict was sparked by a dispute over trade rights and territory, and it would eventually escalate into a full-scale war. Albert played a key role in negotiating a peace treaty with the Lithuanians, which was signed in 1521. However, the treaty ultimately proved to be short-lived, as tensions between the Teutonic Knights and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania continued to simmer. The rise of Protestantism also posed a significant challenge to the Teutonic Knights during Albert's tenure. As the ideas of Martin Luther and other reformers began to spread throughout Europe, many of the order's members began to question their allegiance to the Catholic Church. In 1523, Albert himself converted to Lutheranism, which marked a significant turning point in the history of the Teutonic Knights. The conversion sparked a wave of protests from Catholic leaders, including the Pope, who demanded that Albert be excommunicated. Undeterred by these challenges, Albert continued to push for reform within the order. In 1525, he issued a series of decrees aimed at secularizing the Teutonic Knights' territories and establishing a more modern system of governance. The decrees marked a significant break with the order's medieval past, as Albert sought to create a more efficient and effective administration. The reforms also paved the way for the eventual establishment of the Duchy of Prussia, which would become a major power in the region. As the Teutonic Knights began to transition into a secular state, Albert faced opposition from many of his own members. Some saw the reforms as a betrayal of the order's traditions and values, while others were concerned about the potential consequences of secularization. Despite these challenges, Albert remained committed to his vision for the future of the Teutonic Knights. He continued to work tirelessly to promote the interests of the order, even as he navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the region. In 1526, Albert traveled to Nuremberg, where he met with other Protestant leaders to discuss the potential for a unified response to the Catholic Church's opposition. The meeting marked a significant turning point in the history of the Protestant Reformation, as Albert and other leaders began to coordinate their efforts and plan for a more united front against their Catholic opponents. As the Teutonic Knights continued to evolve and adapt to the changing circumstances of the region, Albert remained at the forefront of the action, guiding the order through a period of significant transformation and upheaval. The following year, Albert issued a series of decrees aimed at promoting the development of trade and commerce within the region. The decrees established new regulations for merchants and traders, and they helped to facilitate the growth of cities such as Königsberg and Memel. As the Teutonic Knights' territories began to flourish economically, Albert turned his attention to the question of defense, recognizing that the order's military capabilities would need to be strengthened in order to protect its newfound prosperity. In 1529, Albert launched a series of military reforms aimed at modernizing the Teutonic Knights' army. He introduced new tactics and training methods, and he invested heavily in the development of artillery and other advanced weaponry. The reforms marked a significant improvement in the order's military capabilities, and they helped to establish the Teutonic Knights as a major power in the region. As the Teutonic Knights' military capabilities continued to improve under Albert's leadership, the order became increasingly embroiled in the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the region. In 1530, Albert formed an alliance with the Kingdom of Poland, which had long been a rival power in the area. The alliance was cemented by a series of trade agreements and mutual defense pacts, and it marked a significant shift in the balance of power in the region. One of the key architects of this alliance was Johannes Dantiscus, a Polish diplomat and statesman who had served as the Bishop of Warmia. Dantiscus was a skilled negotiator and strategist, and he played a crucial role in brokering the alliance between Albert and the Kingdom of Poland. Through his efforts, the Teutonic Knights were able to secure significant trade concessions and territorial guarantees, which helped to solidify their position in the region. As the alliance with Poland began to bear fruit, Albert turned his attention to the question of internal governance within the Teutonic Knights. In 1532, he issued a series of decrees aimed at reforming the order's administrative structures and promoting greater efficiency and accountability. The reforms established a more centralized system of government, with clear lines of authority and decision-making processes. They also introduced new measures for auditing and accounting, which helped to reduce corruption and improve transparency. One of the key beneficiaries of these reforms was the city of Königsberg, which had long been a major center of trade and commerce in the region. Under Albert's leadership, the city experienced a significant period of growth and development, with new buildings, roads, and infrastructure being constructed to support its expanding population. The city's merchants and traders also benefited from the reforms, as they were able to take advantage of new trade opportunities and concessions negotiated by Albert and his allies. In 1535, Albert faced a major challenge to his authority when a group of conservative knights within the order rebelled against his leadership. The rebels, who were opposed to Albert's reforms and his alliance with Poland, sought to restore the traditional values and practices of the Teutonic Knights. However, Albert was able to suppress the rebellion through a combination of diplomacy and force, and he emerged from the crisis with his authority intact. As the Teutonic Knights continued to evolve and adapt to the changing circumstances of the region, Albert remained committed to his vision for the future of the order. He continued to promote trade and commerce, and he worked tirelessly to strengthen the order's military capabilities and defend its territories against external threats. In 1538, he formed an alliance with the Electorate of Saxony, which further solidified the Teutonic Knights' position in the region and paved the way for future expansion. Through his alliances and reforms, Albert had transformed the Teutonic Knights into a major power in the region, and he had laid the foundations for the eventual rise of Prussia as a dominant force in European politics. As the years passed, the legacy of Albert's leadership would continue to shape the course of history in the region, and his name would become synonymous with the spirit of innovation and reform that had come to characterize the Teutonic Knights under his rule. In 1540, Albert's attention turned to the question of education and culture within the order. He recognized that the Teutonic Knights needed to attract talented and educated individuals in order to remain competitive, and he established a series of schools and universities to promote learning and intellectual inquiry. The most notable of these institutions was the University of Königsberg, which was founded in 1544 and quickly became a major center of learning and scholarship in the region. The university was established with the help of prominent scholars such as Andreas Osiander, a theologian and astronomer who had been instrumental in promoting the ideas of Martin Luther. Osiander played a key role in shaping the curriculum and academic programs of the university, and he helped to attract top talent from across Europe to teach and study at the institution. As the University of Königsberg began to flourish, it became a hub for intellectual and cultural activity in the region. Scholars and thinkers from all over Europe came to the university to engage with the latest ideas and debates, and the institution played a significant role in promoting the values of humanism and enlightenment that were sweeping across the continent. Through his support for education and culture, Albert had helped to create a vibrant and dynamic community within the Teutonic Knights, and he had laid the foundations for the eventual rise of Prussia as a center of learning and intellectual inquiry. In 1543, Albert faced a major challenge to his authority when the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V launched a campaign against the Protestant princes of Germany. The emperor saw the Protestant movement as a threat to his power and authority, and he sought to crush the rebellion through force. However, Albert was able to navigate this complex web of alliances and rivalries with skill and diplomacy, and he emerged from the crisis with his authority intact. As the Holy Roman Emperor's campaign against the Protestant princes of Germany subsided, Albert's attention turned to securing the future of the Duchy of Prussia. In 1544, he issued a series of decrees aimed at strengthening the economy and administrative structures of the duchy. One of these decrees established a new system of taxation, which helped to increase revenue and stabilize the finances of the duchy. In the following years, Albert continued to consolidate his power and expand the influence of the Duchy of Prussia. In 1546, he formed an alliance with the King of Denmark, Christian III, which provided a significant boost to the duchy's trade and commerce. The alliance also helped to secure the duchy's borders, allowing Albert to focus on internal development and reform. One of the key areas of focus for Albert was the promotion of education and culture. In addition to the University of Königsberg, which had been founded in 1544, Albert established a number of other schools and educational institutions throughout the duchy. These institutions helped to attract talented scholars and intellectuals from across Europe and played a significant role in promoting the values of humanism and enlightenment. In 1550, Albert's health began to decline, and he became increasingly concerned about the future of the Duchy of Prussia. He knew that his son, Albert Frederick, was still young and inexperienced, and that the duchy would need strong leadership to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that existed in Europe at the time. To address these concerns, Albert established a regency council to advise and support his son after his death. The council was composed of experienced advisors and nobles who were tasked with guiding Albert Frederick and helping him to make key decisions about the governance of the duchy. Albert died on March 20, 1568, at the age of 72, and was succeeded by his son, Albert Frederick. Despite his relatively young age, Albert Frederick proved to be a capable and effective leader, and he worked closely with the Regency Council to navigate the challenges facing the Duchy of Prussia. Over the next several decades, the Duchy of Prussia continued to grow and prosper, becoming an increasingly important player in European politics. In 1618, the duchy was inherited by John Sigismund, Elector of Brandenburg, who united the two territories under a single ruler. This marked the beginning of a new era in the history of Prussia, one that would be characterized by significant growth, expansion, and transformation. In the years that followed, the Duchy of Prussia became a major power in Europe, playing a key role in the 30 Years' War and other conflicts. The duchy's capital, Königsberg, became a center of culture and learning, attracting scholars and intellectuals from across the continent. As the 17th century drew to a close, the Duchy of Prussia was well established as a major force in European politics. In 1701, the Duchy of Prussia was elevated to the status of a kingdom, with Frederick I being crowned as the first king of Prussia. This marked a significant milestone in the history of the region and cemented Prussia's position as a major power in Europe. The kingdom continued to grow and expand over the next several centuries, becoming one of the dominant forces in European politics. The rise of Prussia had far-reaching consequences, shaping the course of European history and leaving a lasting legacy that can still be seen today. The legacy of Prussia's growth and development continues to shape the course of modern history, serving as a reminder that even the most seemingly insignificant regions can rise to prominence through determination and strategic foresight. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.